Let's kick it off. Some of you already said thank you for providing the free coaching. That's my target today. I want to give you an insight of how things work in Pokercode. We decided that one coaching a month we do for free for everyone on Twitch. Everybody can watch us how it is. And after the session, I will tell you some more things that you can get for free. I decided for a topic today how to play rivers in position. I want to be a little bit more detailed here. Our focus will be what to do with weak hands, because if you have a flush, if you have trips, if you have aces, I think everybody can play that. But the tricky part is always when you arrive on the river with a weak hand. That happens all the time. And I'm sure you constantly ask yourself, should I bluff my hand? Should I give up my hand? And if I bluff it, what size should I bet? Should I try a cheap bluff? Do I need to go all in with? And that's exactly what I'm here for today. I want to provide you that value. I'll try to share with you my own thought process, how I approach those decisions. And of course, for a lot of you, you might not know me well, but I'm really a lot into solvers. I like solvers. I started with solvers. That's how I got to the level I am right now. So solvers are part of the sessions, and on some of the river decisions, we will look together at the result of the solvers, and I will help you understand it and explain a little bit why things work as they are. So let's kick things off with the first hand. I am opening from the low jack and the big blind defense. It's a 10k tournament. Let's see. Action starts with a c-bet. I have two options here. I could c-bet bigger, I could c-bet smaller, both is fine. But have in mind our main focus will be on the river. So we will talk a little bit about the earlier streets to understand how do we get to the river. But our most focus will be on the river itself. So I just start with a c-bet, I get called. On the turn, I improved. I was considering my options and I thought, okay, if I have a heart as well in my hand, I want to apply maximum pressure. If I have a heart, it's more likely that I get folds because he will have less flush draws. For example, if I have the jack of hearts, then I block a lot of his combo draws. Jack 9 of hearts, jack 7 of hearts, queen jack of hearts. So of course the heart is more optimal to bet here, and my hand I decided to check back, which is fine. Now we are on the river. Now I arrive with queen high. My first question is, should I bluff this hand? Do I have a little bit of showdown value? And if I bluff, what is the best bet size? And before I'm gonna tell you the answer, this is what I will challenge you with the first Kahoot quiz question. So make sure every one of you is in. I can see over 30 members. There we go. So the options are red, bet third spot, bet 2/3 spot, bet pot size, or we check it. What do you think? I see the answers are mixed and a lot of you said 2/3 spot. So let's look at it together, and now I try to explain you. Not only the answer, what is correct and what is wrong, you can see it, this was correct, but for me it's important that you understand it. The first decision is, should you bluff the hand or not? And the answer is yes. I have enough strong hands that I can play this way. So I have enough hands that I want to value bet, that I can still have some bluffs. I'm early position, so I really don't have many hands that have nothing, so it's a mandatory bluff. I really want to bluff that hand. But now another question is, what bet size should I choose? This will now be something that will repeat on all 6 hands, and in fact it repeats on every single situation that you face in game as well. When it's about what size should you bluff, you must think what size would you use for your value hands. That's the size you also need to use for your bluffs. So let's think about it. What value hands could you play this way? And I say it's an ace with a weak kicker. For example, you have ace 5 of clubs. You c-bet the flop, but you don't necessarily c-bet the turn with just a weak kicker. So I have top pair with a weak kicker. And how big would I bet it? I would not go for an overbet. It would be too greedy with just a top pair kicker 5. And the optimal bet size, in fact, here is 2/3 spot. It's not only ace x, you can be even greedier. What about kings and queens? If it goes check, check on the turn, and your opponent checks on the river again, then you can try to make another value bet with pocket kings, with pocket queens, with pocket jacks, and of course, none of those hands is strong enough to bet very big, and that's also 2/3 is the optimal size. Let's take a look at the solver together. Let's see how the strategy looks like. I allowed multiple bet sizes here, just so that we can understand it from a solver perspective. I allowed 1/3, 2/3, I allowed the pot bet, an over bet, and the all-in. And as you can see, the only bet size which is chosen here is the 2/3 spot bet. So here it's really by far the most favorite hand size. Sorry. And if we take a look at queen check, we don't have it a lot, I must say. I think it barrels quite a lot on the turn, in fact. But if we have it in this line, then we can see it only in red. So every single combination of queen check that we still have in this situation, we need to bluff now. You say it's not a good combo for free barrel. I think if you had the hearts, I would agree, because it's dangerous. You know, your opponent would call flush draws quite a lot. So if you barrel the turn and you get called, you don't really want to have a heart if you barrel the river once more, a third time. But with my specific combo without the heart, I think betting all the free streets would definitely be a fine line. This time I'm the button, we're a little bit deeper. So I open from the button, the big blind defense. This is a $150 tournament on GG, I think. So I most likely didn't know my opponent. But nevertheless, if it's a paired board, it's just good for me. I have the stronger range, the big blind defense a lot. So I want to start with a c-bet, which I do. Small c-bet with high frequency. I decide to continue here, which is completely fine. I improved in equity. I improved to a gut shot, it's an overcard, so I can apply pressure to the free, I can apply pressure to just his ace high hands. If he called, for example, his ace 5 with one club, I make another barrel, I apply pressure. So definitely a fine move. And now the river is the ace. Actually, this is very tricky. And I will attack you with a quiz question once more. Of course, I'm not serious when I say I attack you, but I like it. I want to challenge you. That's where I have fun, challenging you. So think about it a little bit. What do you think is your preferred move? What is the most frequent bet size? All right, so here we don't focus if it's a bluff or a give up. It's about on the river in general. What is the most frequent bet size? Is it a smaller bet size? Is it a medium bet size? Is it a somewhat big bet size? Or do we want to bet very big, 25% or even bigger? Very, very mixed answers. We're gonna think through it together, and then I think you will have a more clear picture why the bet size must be very, very big here. Let's think about the situation together of what hands you want to triple barrel here. On the flop, we bet pretty much everything. We bet pocket pairs, we bet the 9, we bet flush draws, we bet everything. So on the turn, what hands do we continue for value? It's important to understand how do we play our value hands. And for value, we would continue our trips, but we would also continue over pairs. We continue pocket jacks, pocket queens, pocket kings, and maybe some top pair 10 as well. So all those hands we continue for value. But now let's think what is happening on the ace. What would you do with pocket jacks? You cannot make a triple barrel with pocket jacks. That is too greedy here. So pocket jacks you don't bet. Pocket queens, you don't bet. Pocket kings, you also don't bet anymore. And the same happens with the 10. You don't bet it anymore. So what is the value hands that are left that you really want to get value from? That you want to bet for value? And the answer is, it's basically only trips. So in this situation, you polarize yourself between either you have trips or you have nothing. Whenever that's the case, like super strong or very weak, like nothing, that means very polarized strategy, huge sizes. And I've also prepared this situation in the solver so that we can look at it together. Oh, I have prepared it in Odin. Okay, let's take a look. View post flop. So we want to take a look at this river together just because I think it's such an interesting strategy here. I c-bet, I get a call, turn is the 10 of hearts, then check. I continue 2/3 spot, which is also the main line from the Odin solver. Don't worry about it if you're not that familiar with it. I will explain everything relevant on the river to you. Here we arrive on the river and that's what we want to see. I already said our only remaining value hands is basically trips. And with trips, we want to get a lot of value. We are not satisfied just getting 10 BB with trips. Trips is way too strong. We want to charge as much as we can possibly charge. Let's take a look at the strategy. Down here, it's a little bit small, but you have 3 different options. A 66% bet, a 150% pot bet, and then the all-in. And below it, it says the number, how often it's used. So we can see that the 2/3 spot bet, which means around 16 big blinds, is only used about 6% of the time. So almost none. We can almost ignore that option completely. Then we can see the 1.5 times spot bet is used 17% of time, and the all-in is used 15% of time. So overall, more than 30% of time we are working with very big overbets or even the very big all-in here. If we look at the strategy, then we can see it. Pocket jacks, pocket queens, pocket kings, none of those hands are strong enough to value bet anymore, and we really polarize ourselves to having trips or we have garbage, absolute nothing. That's what I wanted to show you here, the concept. When I play poker, I see way too many bet sizes which are around half pot. I think if people don't know better, then they bet around half pot or around 2/3 pot. But here is really a good example where you can see that it's not a good strategy to just have this automatic default bet size and bet something like half pot. You're actually missing a lot of value and it's not very effective. So identify those spots, try to think how would you play your value hands, and then this is also the size you have to choose for your bluffs. So if I had a bluff now, let's say I had 7-8, a straight draw on the turn, this is the size I want to use. I either want to go all in or I make the big overbet. And last thing which I can tell you is when it's about finding the best bluffs, you always want to have hands that don't interfere with the hands that you want to get to fold. What does it mean in a practical example? I want to get to fold a hand like Queen Jack. I want to get to fold a hand like King 7 in clubs. So it's not too good if I have the Queen myself. It's not very good if I have the King of clubs myself. I do not want to interfere with all the hands that I want to get to fold. And that's why a really great candidate for bluffing for me on the river is 7-8. 7-8 of spades. I don't interfere at all with hands that I want to get to fold. 7-6, same principle. I had the gut shot on the turn and now I don't interfere at all with all the hands that I want to get to fold. Those are the perfect candidates to use as a bluff here. There is one question saying if the river was offsuit 2. You said an offsuit 2. I only read offsuited. We should still bet checks to aces, right? Yes, that's correct. If the river is a deuce, then you must still try to get one more round of value from pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks, and then the bet size, we can actually take a look at it together because it's interesting. So if the river was the deuce of diamonds instead the ace of diamonds, let's see what is happening. Now we can see that the all-in is not very frequent anymore. There's 7% of all-in left, but it's not comparable to before. And we can already see that the 2/3 spot bet, it doubled in the frequency of how often it's used. Before it was about 5-6% of time only that this 2/3 spot bet was used. And now it's already 12%. You can see checks, queens and kings, all of those hands, they are betting 2/3 spot. So you identified this correct. You identified we need to get one more round of value, and then a bet size like 2/3 spot is really optimal for a hand like an overpair. Huntech says we have showdown value with Queen 8. I check back the river. I'm questioning that. I'm not sure if you have showdown value. Maybe tiny bit with the queen high sometimes, but mostly it's about that the queen is just not a good hand to bluff because you interfere with the hands that you want to get to fold. So it might be a little bit of showdown value, tiny bit, but mostly it's about queen just not being a good hand. Next hand is pocket deuces. Let's see what's happening. I open pocket deuces from the hijack, the big blind defense. Now this is a monotone board, which is not great, but still the ace and the king is very good for me, and it's a lot better for me than for the big blind. So still, with all the possible hands I could have, I want to bet a lot just because ace and king is so good for the opener and not so good for the big blind. So I c-bet, doesn't matter if I don't have a spade, played standard c-bet here pretty often. Now the thinking process starts. It's about, could I barrel this hand? I think it's possible that I bluff it right away. Some of you now might think, well, it would be super loose or maybe even crazy to bluff a hand like this. But there is one hidden benefit of bluffing a low pocket pair, and I will tell you what it is. Sometimes you can actually get called and you're still ahead. Imagine what he's doing with a hand like Queen 10 with one spade, or let's say the Queen of Spade. He's certainly calling the flop, and he's not folding the turn either. He has queen high, he has a gut shot, he has the flush draw, so of course he's calling. So sometimes if you bluff this low pocket pair and then it goes check on the river, you can even win at showdown. This is why a pocket pair is actually a really interesting bluff candidate. You can get a lot of king to fold without a spade kicker, you can get all the 6x to fold, and sometimes if it goes check on the river, you can even be ahead. So that's why this is a pretty interesting candidate to barrel. Nevertheless, I decided to check it back, which I figured out in a review already. The main line is the bet, but I decided to check it, and now I have a challenge for you again. This question is just a yes or no question. So I will make a statement how to play pocket deuces, and then you have to decide, is my statement true or is my statement false? That's what you can expect now in the Kahoot. 2-2, so pocket deuces should be bluffed here. Do you say it's true or do you say it's false?